What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 21 of the Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show, we're talking all kinds of E3 stuff. All 7 conferences are going to be covered right here on this show, and then we'll talk about some of this week's new releases. We're going to change it up this week, and we're actually going to start with what's new. That way, if that's what you're looking for, it's right at the front. This is going to be a very, very games-heavy episode, so if you're not into games, this probably isn't going to be the episode for you. If you watch anyway, I appreciate it. You can just mute it and let the video play out. There you go. There's your solution. New in theaters this week is the movie Tag, which is based on a story here in Spokane, which is pretty cool. The Incredibles 2 is also out, which is about as unexcited as I have ever been for a Pixar movie. And I love Pixar movies, like a lot. And I am not super excited about Incredibles 2. Oh well. Superfly is also out this week. They've shown a bunch of trailers for it. Looks pretty cool. The best movie of the year is out on Blu-ray this week in the form of Love, Simon. That movie rules. You should go watch it. Tomb Raider is also out this week, and I might check that out. I totally missed it when it was in theaters. A couple games of note out this week. Lego The Incredibles is out, which I'm actually more excited for than the movie. The achievement list and the trophy list are out, and one of the trophies / achievements says that you need to beat a race using Dory, a water race using Dory. So what other kind of Disney and Pixar characters are in there? Makes me very, very curious. So maybe I'll check that out down the road. I'm not going to go get it this week. But what I am going to get this week is Bus Simulator 18. Because if there's one thing in this world that I love that's not Green Bay or Aaron Rodgers' butt, it's buses. I love buses. So now that I have a computer that I can use, hopefully, fingers crossed, to play a bus driving simulation game, because that'll go so well, because I can drive in real life. I can't. Bus Simulator 18. Yeah. That's just one of the many things to be hyped about in this week of E3 is Bus Simulator 18 hitting your PCs. Put it on Xbox or PlayStation 4 so I can actually play it, because I am not good with computers, but I'm good with consoles. Vroom, vroom. I should get a steering wheel for that. Alright. For the main chunk of this show, it's going to be E3 reaction. So if you don't like games, now's your chance to hop out. Thanks for watching, I guess. We'll start, and we'll do the same thing I did last week when I ran through all my predictions, and we'll go in chronological order, the best I can remember. I might get a couple things backwards. I actually ended up watching them out of order. We'll start with day 1. EA kicked everything off on Saturday with their conference, EA Play event, and I thought it was okay. I kept thinking to myself, like, this conference is kind of a misuse of time. And it's not that it was a bad conference and that, like, I'm bummed that I watched it. I think there's some good information in there. I thought Andrea Renee was a super great host and she was criminally underutilized. I just thought that when they talked about, like, their big games like Battlefield and Madden, they didn't really talk about them all that much. They brought out the Madden champion, but then had him talk about just being a Madden player, like a professional Madden player, which isn't interesting to anyone. Even as a person who loves video games, it's not interesting. So why not use him to say, hey, here's the improvements to Madden 19. Here's what I liked. Here's what I think you're gonna like. Is long shot mode back? I don't know. They didn't talk about it at the conference. They didn't talk much about Battlefield 5. They didn't talk really much about anything that was of interest to myself. There were 2 announcements that I thought were really, really cool. Sea of Solitude looked really, really great. It has a great art style. The person presenting the game, you could feel their passion. You could feel how much they liked this game and wanted you to play it. And like, I bought in. It looked beautiful, and I'm very, very excited to see that when it finally comes out. There was no release date given for that, so it looks like it's a ways off, but definitely on my radar. The other announcement that I thought was really cool was Unravel 2, a game that I actually kind of forgot about when I did my predictions. I'm surprised that this game got a sequel, but I'm really happy it did. I started playing Unravel and I didn't finish it. Big shocker there, I know. But I want to go back, and I think about it every once in a while. I'm like, you know what, I should play Unravel. And that point is probably going to come up a bunch during this. It's like, hey, I own like 3 of these other games. I should probably play them at some point. I'm super happy that this game got a sequel, and I thought the presentation they gave was great. It showed off some of the game. It showed off the co-op element of the game, because now you have two Yarnies, a red Yarnie and a blue Yarnie. In the presentation, they talked a lot about what they wanted to achieve with this game, not only from a gameplay perspective, but from an emotional perspective and a story perspective. So I thought that was really, really cool. The bonus part is that it was available that day. So cool. So that's out now for $20 if you want to go play that. Those were about the only two things that I thought were super positive about this particular conference. There was no Skate 4, there was no Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 3, so they missed out on those, no Burnout. Overall, this was a pretty classic EA conference. They talked about a bunch of different stuff. Some of it worked, a lot of it didn't. They, for some reason, brought in a shoutcaster, which is just the worst thing in the world for a mobile game that looked utterly boring, and they spent so much time on that. Again, misuse of time. That is not something that needs to be on an E3, at an E3 presser. Like, I know there are a lot of people that work super hard on all these games. That game didn't need the time it got. Spend more time on Battlefield. Spend more time on Madden. Spend more time on... NBA Live got like a 1.5-minute trailer. That's a game that could have used a couple minutes on stage to say, hey, here's what we know is wrong with this game and here's what we're improving. Anthem had a super weird and confusing segment. They started off with an interview, but I don't feel like I understand the game any more than I did before. Like, I understand that it's a 4-player third-person shooter where you're in an Iron Man suit. That's not an Iron Man suit because they can't legally probably call it an Iron Man suit, but it's a big mech thing, whatever. I knew that last year. Nothing really new came into the fold. Seems like there's some customization stuff, I guess. I don't know. The gameplay looked cool, but didn't feel very helpful to what the game is. I still don't really know what it is, which is unfortunate. So, I don't know. I feel very just middle of the road on this particular conference. What ended up being super weird is that they used Battlefield 5 to tease for more information during Xbox, which is conveniently our next conference. Battlefield 5 is a good place to pick up with our next conference, which was Microsoft, and that was the first conference on Sunday morning. I like this conference a lot. They came out and just did a ton of games. Just games start to finish with a very minor little lull in the middle, little segment that didn't quite work in the Xbox Game Pass. I get why you have to throw that in there. You gotta, tell people about Xbox Game Pass. They had some cool announcements regarding that. Tom Clancy's The Division is on the Game Pass now, and Fallout 4. Elder Scrolls Online, I think, was the other one. So some pretty big games going to that program. That's the word I'm looking for. What I've done is I've gone through and I picked a few announcements that I actually really, really liked from this particular show. I'm not going to go point by point through all of them. That would take way, way, way too long. The first one I thought was awesome was Metro Exodus, which I actually have the Metro Redux collection, which is Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light behind me on the Xbox One. I think I've dabbled in those games before. I don't know, it just didn't hit. Maybe I probably didn't give it enough time, but Metro Exodus looked awesome. I thought it was a really great trailer. Probably could have used some gameplay, but I was still excited about it. Anyway, and I have 2 games that I can play in the meantime. Gets me all hyped up to play that particular franchise. That game is supposed to come out February 22nd, which is when Anthem is supposed to come out, which is EA's game that is not going to make that date. And Days Gone by Sony, which we'll talk about Sony a little bit later. Forza Horizon 4 was also announced. I threw this one out as like kind of an obvious prediction, but I didn't really know what I wanted to see from this particular show. It looks awesome. It's not set in Japan, it's set in Europe, which is totally fine. It has all 4 seasons, which is really, really cool. So it'll shift from summer to fall to winter to spring, and winter provides opportunities for the big lake in the middle of the area to freeze and get to areas that are inaccessible during the other 3 seasons, and that sounds super awesome. I thought it had a great gameplay demo. I really, really loved 3, so I'm pretty totally in on this. It releases October 2nd for the standard regular edition, or if you're a cool guy like me, the deluxe or the ultimate edition releases on September 28th, which is holy mackerel. Between Spider-Man, which we'll talk about later, on September 7th, and Red Dead Redemption 2, which was a no-show at E3, on October 26th, there is a game a week coming out that I am interested in, and that is absolutely insane. Crackdown 3 made a reappearance. It missed its date of November 7th or whatever the hell it was last year. Got delayed into February of 2019, right before E3, I think about a week before this started. Man, I love Terry Crews. He narrates the whole trailer. It looks like he's the main character, which is totally awesome. This game just looks like big, loud fun, and I really enjoyed the trailer, and I'm hoping to see more. I really hope it hits that February target. Fortunately, there are so many other games in the way, or right around that area, that if it slides, it's not the worst thing in the world. No gameplay from Crackdown 3, but just a really cool trailer. Got me all excited. On the flip side, one of the things I didn't think I wanted to see was the new Halo. And boy, did I turn 180 degrees in the opposite direction about 3 minutes into the Microsoft conference, because that's what they let off with. Halo Infinite looks like it's the next game in the Halo franchise trilogy, second trilogy, whatever the hell you want to call it. Man, that trailer looked cool. It looked really, really good, and they hit this sweet shot of Master Chief, and it focuses in on his helmet, and the Warthog's there, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm all in. I didn't think I wanted this, but then they gave it to me, and I was like, I was wrong. I love this. I love Halo. I'm a big fan of it. I think the one thing that wasn't clear with this particular game, because it doesn't have a number, I don't know exactly what this is. Some people were throwing around the idea that it could have been the Battle Royale multiplayer that's taking over the world, because everything needs Battle Royale. Doesn't seem like that's what it is. Doing some more digging after the conference, this looks like it's the continuation or the next chapter in Master Chief's story after Halo 5. The game that, shockingly, have not played. They also talked about some new Sea of Thieves content. Well, they gave a trailer for new Sea of Thieves content, but I don't really know what it is. It was just a trailer. They didn't really talk any more about it than that. And then the Battlefield 5 thing that was teased at EA was a minute-long trailer talking about war stories. And what? That wasn't worth it. I thought, and maybe, my expectations were wrong, but if you're going to give, like, a reveal, you think, like, I think in my head, like, oh, they're going to show, like, a little bit of gameplay. It doesn't have to be that long. It only has to be, like, a couple minutes. It can be, like, a 3-minute thing. But this was, like, a 59-second, like, hey, war stories are coming to Battlefield 5. Which war stories are awesome, but that's what you brought? Final two little minor points. Dying Light 2 looks really, really cool. I got a lot of, like, Fallout New Vegas vibes from it. Talking about factions and dialogue choices, alternating the world and making it different for each person's playthrough. Sounds pretty cool. And I thought they could have cut maybe some of the extra third-party content and focused a little bit more on the ID at Xbox. I know that isn't maybe the easiest thing in the world, but I would have liked to have seen some of those small games that were in the sizzle reel of ID at Xbox games. It also seems like they use the ID at Xbox sizzle reel to really boost that number. They said they talked about 52 games, and I believe that they hit that number, but I also think that there are probably 15 to 20 in there that are 10-second little clips in that sizzle reel. I feel like it's a missed opportunity to showcase, like, hey, we have here are 3 really cool small games that we have coming in the next 3-4 months, and really put a focus on that and give them, a little bit more of an opportunity to shine. Overall, I thought this conference was great. It was wall-to-wall games, like I said. Only one minor little lull, but I really liked it. It spoke to a lot to what I really like to play, and I thought it was great. Closing out day 2 was Bethesda. Sunday, day 2, whatever. This conference, for me, really rode on what Fallout 76 was. Unfortunately, Fallout 76 is what I didn't want it to be. I don't want multiplayer, and I sure as shit don't want the building mechanics. You took the worst part of Fallout 4, and made the whole game that. And that just isn't for me. I thought they did a great job with the presentation and presenting all this information, at least with this particular game, as, like, kind of weird as it sounds. Like, I understand why, like, I don't really want Fallout 76, or why I don't like Fallout 76, which is kind of the opposite of, like, Anthem, where I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't really know what the hell this game is, and I don't care either way. At least on this one, it's like, okay, I don't like building mechanics, I'm not going to play this game. But they had some other stuff come out, or talked about a couple other things that I thought were really, really cool. 3 cool things to be exact. Number 1 was the Prey DLC. seemed really, really awesome. The Mimic Typhoon Hunt multiplayer mode sounded really, really cool. Kind of like an object hunt sort of thing. The mimics in the game can mimic other things, so like all these pop vinyls behind me. They could be aliens. I don't know. They could jump out at any moment. Please don't jump out at me, 8-bit Michelangelo. Oh, I'm scared. The other part of the Fallout DLC was the Moon Crash DLC, which looks like a run-based, get from point A to point B, procedurally generated sort of thing. I don't know. Seemed interesting to maybe give a shot. I don't know if it's going to work for me, but willing to try it. Again, probably sitting on my shelf. The second awesome thing that they announced was Doom Eternal. And this one's kind of a weird one because they just showed a trailer for it. And typically that doesn't get me super excited. And what gets me even less excited is the fact that they're like, oh, come hang out at QuakeCon before, or for the full reveal. And it's like, oh, that kind of sucks. But then like they played the music and they talked a little bit about how there's going to be more enemy variety and it's going to be bigger and just stuff you kind of want to hear of like, hey, this is a sequel. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be more. It's going to be better. Doom from 2016 has a fucking killer soundtrack and plays really, really fast. It's a weird game that actually is better as a game than it is as an E3 demo. That demo is super, super slow, which is really, really weird. Doom, super fast-paced, super fun game. Looking forward to a sequel of that. Speaking of games that have prequels sitting on the shelf behind me that I haven't played, Wolfenstein Youngblood was announced, and it's a co-op game about B.J. Blazkowicz's twin daughters in 1980s Paris. And that's all they really said, and that's all I really needed to know. Wolfenstein, The New Order, that's the first one. Or the reboot, at least. I started like 3 times, and for whatever reason, I think I just get distracted and other stuff comes along. It's really good for what it is. I really need to get into it. People talked a lot about how great New Colossus was last year. The Old Blood seemed to be well received as well. But I like so much about the Wolfenstein stuff is they have the bigger main games of the New Order and the New Colossus, but they also have these kind of side adventures, smaller games that they're putting out in kind of the off years of the Wolfenstein stuff. I think that's scheduled for 2019. Doom Eternal didn't have a date, and then the Prey DLC was out that night or next morning, something like that. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff just didn't work for me. I don't care about the Elder Scrolls in any way, shape, or form. It's not a game that I'm interested in, so a lot of that conference kind of falls flat for me. But again, and that's a lot of the point of this particular show is just, hey, I'm just some dude. Here's like my opinion. Take it if you want, leave it if you don't, whatever. Overall, I thought it was an okay conference, and a lot of people seem very, very excited for Fallout 76. Square Enix kicked things off Monday morning with a short little 30-minute conference that covered things like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, some Life is Strange tangential news, I guess, and a couple more little things that we'll get into here. This was super short, thankfully. They don't have a ton that I'm super interested in. They showed a bunch of trailers. Cool. A lot of the stuff they had shown was already shown at the Microsoft conference, so a lot of it would have been redundant. They led off with about 9 minutes or so of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which looked pretty cool. I liked it even though it felt kind of like, I've seen this before. I'm still interested to play the game. I still need to play the other 2 games, Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then watch the movie Tomb Raider out on Blu-ray this week. So a lot of Tomb Raider content for me to dive into before September 14th. What really stuck out to me were the awesome adventures of Captain Spirit from Don't Nod, who did Life is Strange, and this is like a Life is Strange related sort of self-contained story from what I can tell. They played the trailer initially at the Xbox conference, and on my notes I wrote, fuck yes, I'm super ready for this because it looked really, really good. And in the Square stuff, they went a little bit more in depth with it, though not too much. This game is 100% free when it releases on June 26th, and I can't wait. Please have Gamerscore. It looks so good. And I'm really, really ready for Life is Strange 2. And this seems like a cool way to do the more, like, fantastical elements, is, like, give this kid a superhero alter ego where you can kind of blur the lines between what's really going on and what's going on in his head. And I just think that's such a cool idea, and I really, really can't wait to play this. Square Enix also showed a really cool trailer for The Quiet Man. We'll find out a little bit more about that in August, but I'm definitely intrigued by what that game brings to the table. Finally, Just Cause 4. My brother loves the Just Cause franchise, and he has for like 10 years. I think that first game came out in like 2006. He loves those games. Just Cause 4 looks awesome, and that game is made for sweet trailers. Like, the game's just crazy. It's like, hey, here's this nutso awesome fun playground, and we're going to give you a grappling hook that's awesome, and then you can tether some bad guy to an explosive barrel and then snap them together and watch crazy stuff happen. That game looks awesome. Hopefully it runs on consoles, because Just Cause 3 was nicknamed Just Crash 3 because it did not run super well on the Xbox One or the PS4, and even PC players had problems with it as well. So hopefully they've ironed all that out and can give a really, really awesome experience. That game has weather effects too. There's tornadoes and sandstorms and like blizzards and who the hell else knows. Just Cause 4 hits in December, and I am actually really looking forward to trying that out. Overall, I thought Square's conference was pretty okay. A lot of their stuff we've seen before: Kingdom Hearts, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Just Cause, Adventures of Captain Spirit. None of it was terribly surprising, but hey, doesn't have to be. Just a little more in-depth information on what to expect from some of their games, and I think some of them actually were pretty cool. Going into more detail on Just Cause 4 and Captain Spirit were really cool. Gameplay demo worked well for Tomb Raider, so color me excited for all of those games, and the conference did its job. Even if some of the stuff missed. Like, they played a bunch of trailers where I was like, I don't care about this at all. But hey, they were short, sweet, to the point, and they moved on. Ubisoft was up next in the middle portion of that Monday. I thought this was actually a really, really good conference. They had a lot of different games, a wide variety of stuff that looked interesting. They did a great job of explaining games and showing them at the same time. A cool musical performance that showed off the Donkey Kong DLC for Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, a game that I talked about on this show. And I don't know, I thought overall it was really, really well done. They kept the pace going, and all the games at least looked interesting. There wasn't anything that really stuck out to me as like, man, I really wish they'd move on from this. Transference came back this year for another showing. This is Elijah Wood's film company, collaborating with Ubisoft on like a weird VR game, or you can play it on traditional consoles. Looks super weird. I actually forgot that it was announced last year until they brought it out, and I was like, oh yeah, they talked about this last year. Looks cool. Looks super weird. I'm down to play it when it comes out this fall. The Crew 2 made an appearance, which was pretty cool. There's an open beta on June 21st, just in time for the game to come out on June 28th. I feel like this game is actually being kind of overlooked by Ubisoft itself. I keep forgetting this is coming out, and I really, really like the Crew 1. So, the heck's going on, Ubisoft? Why aren't you showing this game more? I actually had a key for the closed beta, but I never got around to playing it for whatever reason. I'm looking forward to jumping into the beta and trying it out. I don't know if this is going to be a day one game, but it could be a really good summer game. Big open world, drive cars around, do quests, whatever. Team up with your friends. Sounds pretty cool. They're adding all kinds of content. Mario & Rabbids is getting some DLC in the form of Donkey Kong. He's coming. He's going to be a playable character. And it looked really, really cool, and they brought out like a full orchestra for a sweet Donkey Kong music session, so that was pretty neat. I like that a lot. The DLC looks really, really cool and is out on June 26th, which is very, very close. To close out the show, they showed off their new Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it feels like Ubisoft's really found their footing, or refound their footing, with the Assassin's Creed franchise over the last couple of games. People really like Origins. This looked really cool. Play as some dude or Cassandra, the lady. She was awesome. She looked really cool. The guy was super forgettable. Alex? I don't remember. Who cares? I'm surprised at how much I am interested in this particular game. I'm typically not an Assassin's Creed guy. Definitely fallen off the franchise. I played 1 and 2, and I think a little bit of whatever the third one was, Brotherhood or whatnot. And then I got super lost in the story. Didn't care. This seems like a good jumping in point. Maybe we'll give it a shot. That comes out on October 5th. So that's right in the thick of all the craziness from September through the end of October. Overall, I thought Ubisoft's conference was really, really good. Talked about a bunch of different games. Skull and Bones was something that I didn't talk about, but looked kind of interesting, even though I already have Sea of Thieves. Talked a little bit about some For Honor DLC and a couple of other things as well. Kept the show going. New Trials is coming out. All sorts of stuff is going on. Just a really good conference from start to finish. Brought some stuff back up that I forgot was even a thing in Transference and that spaceship game Uplink that has Star Fox in it. So overall, I thought it was pretty good. Sony closed out the night. Shout out to the DualShock. And started really, really strong with an incredible Last of Us Part 2 gameplay demo, which looked absolutely incredible. Like, the cinematic they showed was touching and heartfelt and very sweet, and then the gameplay they showed was incredibly brutal and dark and super wonderful in its own way. I loved every second of it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic and a cool way to kick off the show. Unfortunately, the way they decided to do this particular conference was to have everyone in a building or in a tent that looked like something from The Last of Us Part 2 demo, and then move everyone from that location to a different location, and then basically have an intermission after like 15 minutes. And that completely killed any momentum they had for the rest of the show. They threw it back to the desk, talked about some DLC stuff, like, that didn't really matter. I actually thought a lot of the stuff they showed after the intermission was actually pretty weak. I didn't think the Sucker Punch game, Ghosts of Tsushima, looked all that great. For whatever reason, just didn't click with me. A lot of their smaller announced didn't work for me either. I don't care about Resident Evil or that weird Rick and Morty VR game. Sounded kind of funny, but it's VR, and I don't have VR, so I kind of eliminated from that anyway. And nothing else. I mean, they only showed like 9 or 10 games, and only 2 of them I really cared about. Last of Us Part 2, which looked incredible, and Spider-Man, which looks fucking awesome, and I can't wait to play that in September. The one thing I realized I overlooked, I checked my notes, Control by Remedy is out sometime in 2019. I thought that was a really good trailer and definitely piqued my interest. I liked Quantum Break a lot. I think it was a more interesting concept than it was like fun to play. Hopefully they balanced the gameplay a little bit better with Control, but it looked really, really cool. So I shouldn't say that all of the stuff that they talked about after that intermission didn't interest me. There was one. Overall, actually, I thought that this was kind of a weak Sony press conference. They didn't talk a lot about a ton of games, and the stuff they showed, even though they were gameplay demos, well, 3 of them had gameplay elements of them, like specific, like, this is obviously gameplay elements in them. Only 2 of them really worked for me. 2 of the 4 big games that they talked about, and only one of the smaller announcements was all that interesting, so I thought this was pretty weak. That intermission really, really goofed things up, but I don't think that was the worst part of it. I think that they just didn't show a ton of stuff that interested me. And again, you know, this is like very personal, like, hey, Microsoft stuff speaks more to what I like to play. Sony is kind of more in that 50-50 range. Some of their stuff really does, some of their stuff doesn't. They're just, I don't know, there weren't really any surprises, and they didn't like bring anything out that was like, bam. And for some reason, Days Gone wasn't even there, which is really weird because that game comes out in February, and I feel like that would have been a good time to throw a little gameplay or throw a little trailer, just kind of remind people about that particular game, because I forgot about it until I was talking about it with somebody. I was like, oh yeah, Days Gone wasn't there. We're finally here. We finally made it. We're at conference number 7, the final conference, day 3 or 4 of conferences. Who knows? I'm delirious at this point. Everyone's going crazy. And Nintendo Direct came, and it was pretty much mostly Smash Bros. It was, I think, over half of that particular conference was Smash Brothers. I don't care about Smash Bros, so I skipped most of that back half. I kind of checked in to make sure I wasn't really missing anything. Turns out I didn't actually miss anything. I saw everything I needed to see in the first 19 minutes. I thought there were 2 really, really great announcements. One, Super Mario Party on the Switch. You can use multiple Switches through, like Console Connect or whatever. I don't know exactly what it's called, but you can use consoles like out in the middle of the forest and have a Mario Party. That sounds freaking awesome. That's out on October 5th. Sorry, Assassin's Creed. Thought I might get you, but no, I'm getting Mario Party instead, because that's going to be a fun-ass party game, because party's in the title. The other really, really awesome announcement is another really great game, a really great party game, really great multiplayer game, Overcooked 2, showing up. It's coming out on August 7th. And it has online multiplayer and co-op. So, man, go play Overcooked. It's really, really great. It's in the Xbox Game Pass. You can download it there, or just go buy it because that game rules. On the flip side of all these like really cool announcements, we saw some more of Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu or Eevee, whichever one. Both, because they're the same game. Anyway, No new information really. You can get the cool little Pokeball add-on that looks kind of interesting, but no like Metroid Prime 4 or no Yoshi update or anything really. It was hope you like Smash for 20 minutes and then a bunch of smaller games that are they're there. They did like a huge montage of like look at all these games coming to Switch, and then they were in there for like 8 seconds, and you're like, well, I thought it was kind of a lackluster conference, unfortunately. And again, that's strictly from like a personal like I don't really like Smash Bros, so I don't really care about any of this stuff. So a lot of it isn't information for me. A couple of cool announcements came out of it, but not a whole lot to say for Nintendo. Overall, I think Microsoft had the best conference for me personally. I liked a lot of the stuff they showed, and on the flip side, I think EA had the weakest. Everybody else is kind of just somewhere in the middle. Some really great stuff that I liked, a lot of stuff that, didn't really work for me. But who cares? Video games are awesome, and this E3 has been incredible and had a lot of really, really cool stuff and fun reveals and all sorts of fucking awesome games to play this fall. And then all the prequels that I have on my shelf back behind me. So, yeah. E3 is awesome, and I love it so very, very much. Thank you so much for watching the show. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you're excited for down in the comments below. Give me like your top 5 games that you're excited to play, or top 10, or whatever. Just write as many games as you want, and we'll talk about it, and it'll be awesome. If you like the content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and be sure to check back next week for more game and movie coverage. Bye. Be sure to crack open a cold one for our 21st episode. Yeah. Sweet ass cold one. Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff.